to the media after the Arsenal game. Could you just kind of give us an indication of what's happening and why there's this issue?
We close the game and we work on the feedback. We give the team feedback. I think we played very well in Arsenal. You could already see before the game, we trained very well, we played very well. I think we deserved much more in Arsenal. It was not on our side. And that was definitely the outcome of our analysis. But you see, we are progressing against a good Arsenal. But minimum, we had to get a draw there. And I think we should have won there. But we didn't. But we take the performance. And also in the last 2 days, when all the players they came back, we trained very well, and we are ready to fight Brighton. Very good Brighton, but we are really looking forward to. We have a lot of energy. Like I say, we have a good fight, so we are ready for it.
With respect, I asked you about Jadon Sancho and his response to what you said after that game, and also the statement that came out yesterday, whether there's been any resolution to that.
I think everything is set. So, and as I said, the squad is strong, the squad is in good spirit, good mood, go into the game.
It doesn't feel as though there's a good mood when you consider the Jadon situation. Anthony obviously is not available to you. How can the squad be in?
They are very good because you have sometimes setbacks in seasons. Players are injured or other reasons, they are not available, and therefore you construct a squad, and the squad is very good, and players who are available are very motivated to give a good performance.
Erik, can you give us an insight into who is available for this game then? Alessandro Martinez, is he okay to play?
Yes.
No issues with his injury anymore then?
No.
Victor Lindelof's okay?
Yes.
Mason Mount?
No.
Raphael Varane?
No, but both are in a good place. They are, I think, shortly before a return.
Can I ask you about Harry Maguire as well? The England manager, Gareth Southgate, and Harry's mum actually have spoken out about some of the abuse that Harry's received over the last few weeks, months, even years for Harry, the way it's been going. How have you supported him through this situation? You see him on a day-to-day basis here around the club.
Yeah, but I think already I've said many times, it's disrespectful. He doesn't deserve it. He's a great player. He's given great performances. It's crazy, but it's how it works. And Harry has to block this by performances.
And obviously, Harry said as well that he feels he's able to cope with the criticism, the scrutiny, the abuse on a day-to-day basis. Like I say, being here around him, how do you see him dealing with that?
Yeah, good, but it's unjustified. If you see his career, it's a great career, and it has a lot to come. And as I said, he has to block it by good performances.
Thank you.
Hi, Erik. How much do you feel sometimes a bit of a father figure to some of these players? All the management you have to do around them, it's not just what they're doing on the training pitch, is it?
No, it's also you live with the generation. It's about team constructions, the group dynamic, but it's always about team. And team is ahead of anything else. But in the team, anyone plays his role, and anyone is different, as different characters. And you have to manage those characters. But also, as I said, the team is always above anything else.
And we know that you can have a very, very strict line sometimes. Do you stick to that with these players, or have you been able to give a bit more leeway to some than others?
Yeah, but strict line, that is what the point. But the club asked me because there was no good culture before I entered last season to set some standards, and that's what I did. Then it's my job to control the standards, and of course it's not, it's never have been as well that someone when you make one mistake. No, is a whole process before you come to a certain outcome about strict lines. But if staff or players or whatever if there's a structure to cross lines, you have to be strong. Absolutely.
And you mentioned there about culture and how the club's changed since you arrived. Of course, Brighton was your first Premier League game. Where do you see this team now against Brighton again compared to when you first started?
Oh, I love it to play them because it's typical, and we had 2 great games in spring against them. You saw it was really head-to-head. We know we have to play tomorrow to our best because they will let you sacrifice and suffer. But also, it gives you a lot of options. So I'm really looking forward to go into that fight.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
last question.
Sorry. Do you have an idea how long Anthony may be away from the club?
No idea.
You've spoken to him over the last few days. Is he okay?
Of course, he's disappointed, but he is okay.
Man United is still a great team, great players, great manager, one of the best managers in Europe, great atmosphere, I think. But we are Brighton, and the DNA of Brighton is to try to win, playing well, playing football, keeping the ball.
Very tricky start to the season so far for Manchester United. Not even what's happening on the field, but what's happening off it as well. We've got to start by talking about Jadon Sancho. What's your take on it?
Yes, well, Erik ten Hag said some very interesting things in the press conference today, and he talked about setting standards that weren't there before he arrived at the club. And since he arrived, we've seen him prove this aspect of his work and show how much of a disciplinary guy he can be with Cristiano Ronaldo and then Rashford in terms of just keeping things tight. And now with Jadon Sancho, I just feel it got a bit out of hand, because he was asked after the match against Arsenal about Sancho's absence on the bench, and he said he didn't train really well. And Sancho came out on social media, and now Ten Hag, Sancho is not training with the rest of the team, and Ten Hag came out and said that he needs to put standards, and the team comes before anything else. So I think it's very clear that this is the way Erik ten Hag works. And if you don't agree with that, you have to show some personality or show some results on the pitch.
I think it's also an interesting one because it shows the power and the beauty of social media for athletes, because now Sancho gets to have his narrative out there as well. What's your take?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask Natalie this. So when a manager says something like that and a player says the opposite, I feel like we instinctively want to believe the manager, because we're so used to seeing a manager being in front of a camera, a microphone, and talking about the realities of a setup. But I've also played professional football, and not everything that they say is true. Not everything that they say is real. And some of the things that he's leveled against Sancho, these are things that will probably stick with him for the rest of his career. So if you believe that it's wrong, you have to be able to speak up. But are the club going to be saying, okay, let's create a press conference for Sancho to try and say his side of the story? They won't do that, will they?
They won't do that. No, not a chance. But I thought it was interesting what Ten Hag said today, that he said that you don't take these decisions out of the blue, that it was kind of part of a process that was already happening. It wasn't just one thing, one training, one bad week that he had on training. So he's leading the narrative.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And how do you think this situation finishes?
Yeah, great question, because
That's
he needs
thing.
to apologize, right? They've been very clear on that. And will he apologize? Can he?
Well, initially, no. And this is the main reason why he is not training with the rest of the team. He didn't apologize. But now the window's closed. Everything happened right after the deadline day.
I've got to say, maybe this isn't like a real world example, but how many times have you heard somebody say sorry to you, but you know they didn't mean it? You know, there's real remorse and sincerity in the sorry and I will change. But maybe some people just want to play football. So yeah, maybe they say sorry and nothing changes.
And tactically, it's very interesting because I have no idea what Ten Hag is going to do with the front three, because I don't think he could change the system, but I don't believe that he could play with, because there's people have been talking about McTominay, that he needs to help Casemiro because sometimes Casemiro needs help, and then he could play Casemiro, McTominay, Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes, Højlund, and Marcus Rashford. But this means he would have to change the system, which I don't think is the case. but he could play Garnacho inverted. He could play Pelistri, which I think is very unlikely because he doesn't have much game time. I don't know.
They're pretty short out on the right, especially. And then the question you mentioned, Højlund there. Does he get his first start this weekend? What's your feeling?
It seems like it's just whoever's available is going to play. I think that's the way it is at Manchester United at this moment in time. So, Højlund, they spent a lot of money on him. He's a young player. He's going to be a big prospect. And I think he'll be chomping at the bit to get out there and play. I thought he had an impact when he came on in the Arsenal game. Obviously, it wasn't like the final piece, it didn't feel like, but he put himself about. He made some good runs. And if you want him to do well, you've got to give him the opportunity. And, what a chance to make your home debut against a side like Brighton. Yeah,
and the fact that Marcus Rashford, I know they lost the game, but he got off the mark against Arsenal, and that's always good. They need him up and firing.
Oh, yes, no, definitely. And he's been really good this season. And he seems more comfortable when he plays wide than in that false nine that he had to play a few times, especially last season. So yeah, he's such a key player, and he's very aware of that. And he's very aware of how important he is to United's dynamic up front. If it's either with Højlund or whoever he plays with.
What would you do with the United front three? What would you do outright?
Well, respectfully, I think most people that know me know I support Man City. So, I'd probably track them all in the hotel room before the game. But I think I would go Rashford off the left. I'd play Højlund, and I'd hope that Garnacho could possibly play on the right. That's what I would hope. But I think given the fact they're playing against Brighton, it'll give you a different sort of look when you go up against them. Maybe this is the game to try something a bit different, because the way Brighton will attack you is very different to other sides.
Yeah.
So, like I said, my first option is for them to not make it onto the field. But after that, then, maybe a slight tactical tweak.
Completely objective here on
Hey, listen, I express my bias from the get-go. Everyone knows it's there.
Fair enough. What about Brighton? They've had a great start to the season, 3 wins in their opening 4.
I am excited that we might get a few minutes of Ansu Fati.